What's going on, everybody? It's Los here. We're back on the throne of positivity, where the first is last and the last is first. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and also the notification bell so you don't miss out on any upcoming videos. Today, I think is going to be a really special video, and I wasn't expecting this at all, but I have to tell you how we got here. I'm not sure what the video is going to be exactly, but I think that what God wants me to talk about is, as a man, how to prepare and cast a vision for your future marriage, for your house, and as a man of God, how to live that now, even as a single man. And the reason why this has been so important to me is that, I've been doing ministry online for about the last 4 years. I first started ministry really in 2015, but for the last 4 years, it has been heavy on my heart, the state of men in the world, like especially in the United States, and how we are, masculinity is, I don't know how else to say it, but it's castrated. We are a shell of what men of the past, even just a generation or two generations ago, like we're not even a shadow of what they were or who they are, because they're still living today. And it scares me. It breaks my heart to think about the generations that are being raised today. And I think that as men, we have the greatest responsibility in the world to change what is happening. And what greater way to do that than starting with yourself and at home? I think that as men, we want to be great and awesome and be legendary. We want that legacy in the sense of doing something amazing in the world. And, you think about people like Jordan Peterson, John Lennox, Jonathan and Mathieu Pajot, or, Isaac Newton, Albert Einstein, whoever is the mountain of, the Mount Rushmore of your inspiration. Like, we want to be those individuals, but the reality is like not even 1% of the population will be who those men are. But you can make an equal contribution as they, if you think about that you are contributing to the grand narrative that not only you will live in presently, but that which future generations will participate in. And we often hear that, the state of, or I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but this has been something that I've always thought about, and it may have been spoken before in the church, but the state of the world is not a result of the world, right? The state of the world is the result of the responsibility of the church, because darkness is only darkness because the light hasn't shone there. So if the world is the world because the church fails to shine a light on it, then if we can go to a level more zoomed in, a more microcosmic level, and see where is this responsibility truly lie, we gotta look no further than the man. Because it's the man that communicates with God. It's the man that has direct revelation from the Lord. It's the man who is given the blueprint, the schematic of what the house should be. This is, the Lord builds the house, but he shows us the plans. He gives us the way to do it, the instruction. This is what it is. And you will gather the materials to do what he's calling you to do. And you do that how? In partnership with your wife, right? So the world is the world, and I'm going to touch on that thing with the wife in a second so that you can know where this video came from. But the world is the world because the church fails to be the church. Or I don't want to say fail, but because the church is not shining the light in the way that she should. But even more so, the church is the church because the men are failing to be men. And the reason why the men are failing to be men is because the attack of society to destroy and emasculate all of masculinity. So a great purpose of mine is to show, I don't know if this is just my best effort of what I believe true masculinity to be. And I do that by being vulnerable, by being honest, by being repentant, by being, fruitful, by being, I don't know, try to be communicative, strong, powerful, vocal, intelligent. Like, I'm trying to teach you something, and I'm trying to break not the patriarchy. I'm not trying to break the masculinity, but what I'm trying to do is show masculinity in a light that I don't think we've gotten right for a long time. And this video, again, like, this is not to skirt anything from women, because I think that you're gonna get so many beautiful things from this video. But again, this video is directed to you as a man, because again, if I can raise up strong, powerful men, and not I, please forgive that word, in accordance and agreement with the Lord, being the vessel and simply the tool to raise up a generation of strong and powerful, willing, sacrificial men who are willing to lay down their life for their wives and their families, to build them up, and recognize that the greatest contribution that they can make to the grander narrative is not doing the great and most amazing things that these other men do, but in actually raising a successful family and fighting back against the tyranny that is the kingdom of darkness. Then what is it that we cannot accomplish in this world? Because oftentimes we feel helpless, but if you recognize that who you are as an individual personally, and you walk that out until you come into partnership with your spouse, the helpmate that you have to fulfill the vision and the mission and the purpose that God has given you to raise children. When you pass, now your legacy continues in that way. And you may or may not do something great, but now you have a legacy and you live on through them. And then them through them. You don't know the impact of what you can do. I can't change what has been done, right? I can't change my ancestors and what they did, and I'm, pay for the sins of what they have done. But I could pay for my own sins. I could accept responsibility and change the course of my family forever, so that the name of Puentes actually means something, right? Like that we contributed something. And then you can do the same thing. So I hope that, that was a long thing to say, and this may be a longer video. I'm noticing that my videos are getting longer, but hopefully you can endure. If I'm going to put out content, I want to do it to the best of my ability and feel satisfied in what I'm talking about. So how did this idea of a video even come? Today's Monday. It's, what time is it? 8:52. I got to get to class. I'm going to be late. My class is at 10:10, and it's 20 minutes south. But anyways, I don't care. This is more important. Yesterday, Sunday at night, I was watching a video of Jordan Peterson, Tammy Peterson, and Michaela, formerly Peterson, now Fuller, and they were talking like as a family, and their dynamic was so beautiful. And this was just before bed, before I start reading for my nightly routine, and I'm listening to them. I'll put the link in the description or in the comment section so you guys can watch it if you want to. But listening to them talk, I saw something that I've always wanted, and that is a family dynamic that has pure communication, unfiltered and unafraid conversation. And what I'm talking about is, like, I want you to pay attention to the dynamic between Jordan and Tammy, and then also Jordan and Tammy with Michaela. I think that's how you say her name. Forgive me if it's not. But it's beautiful. And then they talk about everything from relationships to advice, life, mission, ministry, like everything. And then they talk about sex. Like they talk about the physical connection between themselves. And they're talking about this with their daughter. And you may be like, oh, well, that's weird and whatever. And it's like, why is that weird? I don't understand why we make sex, and I'm going to say sex because it makes us uncomfortable. But what's funny is that when we talk about it within the Christian context, it's uncomfortable. But then we have all comfortability watching movies where, they're having sex in the movie prior to marriage. We're comfortable with watching things on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube that even unintentionally, I hate scrolling on social media because I could get 10 songs on the shorts feed of worship and verses and Bible. And I'm like, yes, man, yes. And then all of a sudden it's just something that I don't want to see. And it's like, but we comfortable with that, but we not comfortable with talking about sex. And we need to talk about this because God created it holy, right? Like, it's pure. But that's not the point of the video. I just wanted to make that point. But I found that beautiful that they're able to have this conversation with their daughter there. And I think what that does is it presents things in the right order. And the ability to communicate is the ability to express yourself. And if everybody's expressing themselves, there's an equal, not equal, but a free flowing distribution of power. I hate to even say that but anyways, it's an equal distribution of ideas and flowing of expression of self. And there's no limit to that, because again, like the communication of even the taboo is what needs to be had, because if you don't address these things at the family table, then your children will express themselves and find the outlets outside of the table. So why wouldn't you want to have that conversation at the table? I'd rather be the one to tell you it and introduce you, to give you the guideline of how to approach these things, than for you to find out what it is, fall in love with the deception of what the enemy presents sex to be, and then now you're spiraling out of control. You don't know what to do with your life, right? So again, I don't think I'm ever going to make a video about that, but that's why it's important. Anyways, I'm kind of getting long-winded. Towards the end of the video, Tammy and Jordan are talking about the tour that he's about to go on this year. And they're discussing the dates. And then something interesting happens. He talks about how Tammy has like the power, basically. Not the full power, but she has the power to contribute and make executive decisions, in the sense of to change dates, or even the aligning of dates on the tour. So like they found it too burdensome on themselves that they were doing like almost every day or every other day, going to a new city, flying almost every day. And that came to be too much. And she made the executive decision that he agreed to break it up, where they do a couple days, then have 4 days in between, then go again, and then have 4 days in between. Now, why is this important, and how did I get to where I am now about this video? Okay, again, this is going to be a long video, just warning you guys. What that made me do, it brought me to the conversation that people are always asking me: are women supposed to be pastors? What, that's always a conversation. If you want to hear that, I'll put like a link or something here. And even more so with the question, it always like, you can only have like two sides of it. Either you are strongly against it or you're strongly for it. But that's not what's important. With that, you can never answer the question of what that is until you answer the questions of what is the dynamic within the home. Like, people often ignore these things and think like the house has nothing to do with the church and the church has nothing to do with the house. But it's all laid out in Ephesians 5. And what this did, seeing the dynamic between Tammy and Jordan, it was like, that's what I want between my wife and I. Because unfortunately, this just shows you that the church is not perfect in herself. Unfortunately, the historical record has shown that men have undervalued their women, their wives. And what it has created is this subservient role of submission, which makes no sense, because if you look at the Ephesians 5 dynamic, this is literally the guide that God gives us as men. So men, please study this. Men are called to sacrifice. Women are called to submit. And Jordan and Tammy talk about this in the sense that there is no submission within marriage, which I found interesting, and I think I agree to a certain degree. But anyways, men are called to sacrifice, women are called to submit. And when I use the word sacrifice, I'm not just saying sacrifice, I'm saying die. Men are literally called to die, to uphold all that is on their shoulders. So as I was thinking about that, I paused the video and I was done with it. It was towards the end of the video. I paused it and I turned off my iPad and I went to pray. And all of a sudden, I don't know, it's like, you ever had one of those prophetic moments where you're just in the spirit and you're praying to the Lord, and it's just like the flow is there. And as I was praying for my wife, I'm talking to God about this role. And I'm like, Lord, it's so unfortunate that We have reduced the rib, the side, our helpmate, our partner, like the woman that we were tasked to protect, to this like thing, like this thing that we could take and put to the side. And whenever I need you, I'll pick you up. And whenever I don't need you, I'll put you down. And I command you. I determine how much coffee goes into the cup. I determine like when do I wash you, when do I not, like as if this woman is a thing. Like if she was a thing, then that would be a thing. But she's not a thing. She is a living, breathing, intelligent, capable, strong, powerful, wise woman of God. Like it just boggles my mind how you can ever get to the point of wanting that tyrannical power to lord it over her. And it doesn't make sense. So I'm praying to God and I'm like, man, Lord, I was just flowing. I'm like, Father, I want this with my wife, because like, what greater gift can you give a man outside of a woman, a wife, in the sense that as a man, I'm living alone. The only view that I have is what I know about the world and what I have experienced it. And what's interesting is that God didn't give us a mirror to be like, this is your companion. No, he gave us a living, breathing woman that we could iron sharpen iron. Because if I look in the mirror, I can fall in love with myself. And the Bible says that in regard to self-critique, right? And being real with yourself. If I look in the mirror, I'm not going to be honest with myself. I may look at myself and then overly compensate and be in love with myself. Then I got a big head and like, oh, you look handsome, you this and you that. Or I could go the opposite direction and go too far and be like, yo, I hate you. I despise you. You're ugly. You're this, you're that. But there's no equal balance in the way that I really look at myself in the mirror. Because even when seeking honest conversation with myself, even when trying to correct myself, even when trying to do the best that I can, I'm biased, and there's no way to separate myself from bias, right? So God didn't present us a mirror to look in the mirror and say, make the determination that you need to make. Rather, he created this living, breathing essence, this woman that she is there. And what does that determine? That we are on an equal playing field. So God didn't give me a servant. He gave me a partner. And this partner, this woman, will be the mirror. She will be the ultimate reflection of me and my praxis of the gospel, of the word of God. Am I living this? Is not even a basis on what you see from me. It's the fruit that I'm producing in her. Because there's this interesting thing in the gospels, not the gospel, sorry, Psalm 128, where it demonstrates this, where you can see that the ultimate reflection of the gospel is found in how you, brother, are building up your house. It says, blessed is everyone who fears the Lord, who walks in his way. You shall eat the fruit of the labor of your hands. You shall be blessed, and it shall be well with you. Your wife will be a fruitful vine within your house. Your children will be like olive shoots around your table. Behold, thus shall be the man blessed who fears the Lord. So the home is the ultimate reflection of my walking with God. So again, like I was having this conversation and I was like, Father, the true masculinity can only be reflected in the true femininity, and the true femininity will be reflected in the true masculinity. And one can't overexert the other. One can't dominate the other, because then it will break the balance. Like if you think this is a subservient role and it's just me telling you what to do, then I don't think we understand the vision of God. Like it doesn't work like that. It's not an order of importance. It's an order of responsibility. So God gives what? God gives the word, the revelation, the vision, and the direction to the man. That man is responsible for communicating it to the woman. And then it's the woman's responsibility to understand the communication and then come into agreement with the man that they both bring this to fruition. How? In the home, through the children. And then now we impact the world, and now the world can actually change. And this is from generation to generation. And that chapter ends by saying, may you see and be blessed to the children of your children's children. Like, may you see the fruit of your labor, right? Because the ultimate reflection of me is going to be found in her. And the ultimate reflection of her is going to be found in me. I'm responsible for flourishing that garden, and she's responsible for bearing me fruit. Like, there's this dynamic, and when I say that true masculinity and femininity thrives in the trueness of each other, like the essence of light is to be found in darkness, and darkness is to be found in light, in that they're both the absence of the other, but one with the other creates something beautiful, right? Like the sun and the moon, like everything you can think about, the heavens and the earth, all polar opposites, is the beauty of it all. And where man, I know this is going to get really technical, but if you think about like the way that the dynamics actually work, man is responsible for order, for power, for authority, and all these other things, and women are responsible for the subtle, for the quiet, for the power dynamic in a totally opposite way. And something that Jonathan Pajot talks about is that true femininity is the silence, not in the sense that you have to be silenced, but it's the subtle. It's like the moment that you have to speak about the femininity is the moment that you're not even describing femininity, because the true feminine is the silent, is the subtle workings of the world, all the things that truly make the world tick, and all the cogs of the machine that works without being seen. So, but the man is the forefront of that. He's the one that gives his body to manifest these things. So the two can't work without the other. And I kept praying about that, right? And telling the Lord, like, I'm not looking for a servant. I'm not looking for a woman that I say, come here, and she comes. Like, that's so ridiculous. A true man has no threat of a woman who is equal or greater than himself. Like, I look forward to the conversations that I'm going to have with my woman, that she could challenge me. Not to be like, if I'm talking about something and I'm wrong, she's going to butt in and be like, oh, you're wrong. That's not what challenging is. Challenging is for the purpose of making better, right? Like if I'm talking, and you guys know I'm long-winded, and sometimes I go off the thing, and then now I'm in a place I'm not supposed to be. She's not supposed to just interrupt me and say I'm wrong, but I'm looking for you to challenge me, like kick me under the table, tell me I'm doing wrong. Like you need to be the one to check me. You're the checks and balances that God brought so that there could be equilibrium within myself. Because like I said, where I know this is going to sound weird, but the mythological imagery of women is chaos. It's like it's chaos, and men are order. And that sounds weird because it's like good and evil, but it's not good and evil. Don't think about it like that. It's like the two need the other. How is there order without chaos? How is there chaos without order? So she needs to bring that element into my life to disrupt what I think is true. And in the same way, I need to bring that to her. So there's this equal playing field, and we're constantly creating a balance within ourselves. In me praying about this, I was like, man, Lord, like I started thinking about the poem that I put in my shorts feed. And I'm like, man, the woman that I saw, I was like, man, Father. And I thought about this song, Madison Ryan Ward, Higher, where the song starts by saying, it was all woman when I saw you. And that's what I thought about. I'm like, that's what woman is. Like, woman is not some weak little thing on the side. I don't need nothing weak on my side to go to war with. I need something powerful. I need something dependable. I need some type of challenge. I need some type of resistance, because who wants to hear like you're doing good, pat on the back all the time? No, you need to be real with me. You need to be authentic. The Bible says wounds from a friend are like a kiss, right? Or something like that. And I'll put the reference here. But like I need her to kiss me, not only in the physical sense where we could be intimate in that way, but she needs to kiss me, both of us, one to the other, with the reality of what's going on. Correction needs to be had. So when I was like, yo, it was a woman when I saw her, I go to my pictures this morning, and I'm looking at my pictures, and I'm like, a memory comes up, and all of a sudden I see this picture where there's a video playing. The tag is that song. It's like a sunrise, and then like I see that song, Higher, and I'm like, what? I just used that reference yesterday. So I already had it in my mind, like, man, I want to talk about these things in a video. And then this morning, as I'm praying, as I'm getting ready for my day or whatever, I'm listening to this song in Spanish. It's called El Rey te mandó a llamar, and that means the king sent me to call you. And it's about, how do you say his name in English? I don't know how to say his name. It's about Mephibosheth, David and Jonathan's son, like Jonathan's heir. And when David does that whole story and calls him to the kingdom, and his faithfulness, that's a whole beautiful story. So I'm listening to that song, and it's a playlist, and then all of a sudden the next song is Himno de Victoria, which is Hymn of Victory. And then the next song is Quiero ser como tú. I gotta read this to you. It's in Spanish, and it just was more conversation. I was like, okay, I gotta make this video because you are obviously desiring me to make a video about this and to encourage somebody. So I'm gonna translate it as I'm reading it. It's in Spanish. What the song is basically about is that this worship artist, Danny, what he does is his son comes to him and it tells him something, and I'm gonna read the lyrics. He says, I felt at my side, somebody gave me a hug, and the voice said, Papi, meaning dad, with his pillow in hand, he tells me, Papi, I want to be like you. Quiero ser como tú. And this was making me emotional. I'm listening to it as I'm brushing my teeth, and I'm like, yo, I don't really know if I ever heard this song. And I'm actually paying attention to the lyrics. And then he says, I put my son to sleep and I kiss him and I turn off the lights and I make a silent prayer that when he grows up, that he may see in me a father who lives for God. And he says, God, my Lord, I want to be like you because he wants to be like me. I want to give him a good example so that his eyes can see. And it made me tear up because I'm like, yo, that's my entire purpose. When I think about these great men that I've mentioned before, or any great men that you could think about that have ever contributed to society or culture, what did they contribute? Maybe something financial, maybe something scientific, technological, something intellectual, something spiritual, like something powerful. And it made me think, like, what am I going to contribute? And I think the greatest contribution that I can give to the world is something relational. And what that relational thing is relational between me and God. I want to show the most raw, intimate, closest, deepest, powerful, authentic reflection of relationship with God, and then not only do that vertically, but do that horizontally in the sense of show that between me and my wife. Like what can I show the world? I want to show the world the most powerful marriage that is possible. I want to then, between her and I, like what we do below us in the sense of how we raise our children. And through doing that, our house will then go forward to make an impact in the world. Now, when I say that I want to give the greatest example of marriage in the world, this actually stems from an insecurity. But before I come to the insecurity, I have to tell you that although my goal, my vision is to be the closest man to the heart of the Lord, and I believe that my wife shall be the closest woman to the heart of the Lord, and together we shall be the closest to the heart of the Lord. And I say that with all humility, and whatever humility is required to get there, fill in the gap. But that's not a requirement or an expectation that I'm laying on her shoulders. That's a requirement and an expectation that I'm laying on myself to live that every single day. And this is where it goes back to the dynamic between a man and a woman, a husband and a wife. My role, my responsibility is not to lord it over her. My role and my responsibility is to live it so thoroughly that there's no separation between my word and my action. So powerfully shall be my example that she will be inspired to follow my suit. She will be inspired to do and come into agreement with the vision that God has casted in me. And then she lives that herself without me having to explain these things. And I only present it before us so that it may come into her mind. I don't know what's her idea of marriage, but where this comes from me, I think that the reason why the most important thing that I wish to contribute to the world is family and the dynamic between a man and a woman, a husband and a wife, and us between God, is that I have an insecurity. I didn't grow up in, though I guess to start, I grew up in a home where between the ages of 1 and 11, it was less than ideal. And I'll say this to respect of my parents. I lived in an environment where it was the most contrasting thing. When my parents came together, to this day, I have never seen an example given in the way that my father gave to us and my mother gave to us. Like, I've never seen that to this day. I've never seen a man who loves his children so powerfully, so lovingly in the way that he did. And then my mom, although my father was vocal and affectionate in that way, my mother was sacrificial. My mother, she loved us by service. She wasn't a vocal woman. She was a service woman. Like, the way that she would work hours at a time and then come home and have meals prepped, have 5 kids all dressed, ready to go. Like, I have yet to see that dynamic. But unfortunately, there was a lot of trauma in that home. There was a lot of trauma. There was a lot of darkness in the home. And to the honor and respect of my parents, I won't get into it. They divorced at 11 years old, and that completely destroyed me. And this is why I have to talk about these things, because we are so focused on the wars that are at the foreign front. We're worried about the things happening in the world and even in front of us, the wars that are happening in front of us in this country or wherever you're located. But we forget that the greatest crime against humanity is not war in the sense of over there. It's what the devil is getting away with right under our nose. He's destroying families. He's destroying men. He's destroying women in their identities, even what they identify as, and then he's destroying the marriage. That doesn't mean anything anymore. There's no more fidelity. There's no more loyalty. There's no more honor and reverence for the institution that God has created. And now the home has been destroyed. And if you destroy the home, you destroy all of society. So if we can get back to that, then we can restore all of society. When my parents split, created a great insecurity for multiple reasons. Like, you know, in a lot of ways, I grew up alone. And again, I love my parents. I love everything that they have shown me, but there's something prevalent going on in my family. My family, I think there's, on both sides of my family, there's probably only 2 successful marriages of all the hundreds of people that are in my family. Everybody else is like divorced or whatever. Like, it's crazy. Or they're not even married. You know what I'm saying? So there was no example in my home. And again, like, you do see glimpses of hope in other people, but I have yet to see the marriage that I wish to replicate. And I want that. Again, not to put pressure on my wife. If she wants to join in and help me carry this burden, then that would be beautiful. But I will carry this solely now, even being single. But in order to get to where I want to get to, I have to live as a man prior to getting there. Right? Like, I've always said this, before I'm a man, when I'm a boy, I have to be a man. I have to live as a man. When I'm a man, I have to live as a husband before I'm a husband. And as I'm a man, before I'm a father, I have to live as a father. So being a boy, living to be a man, I have to take on responsibility. Being a man that wants to be a husband, I have to respect my wife. I have to, you know, even before she's here, I got to understand that I got to be careful with the way that I interact and engage with other women. Flirting is cheating. Right? Flirting is cheating. So I don't play with that. I limit my interactions with women because, you know, I respect women and I don't make things awkward. But listen, I don't play with flirting. Don't flirt with me because I'm not flirting with nobody. And I had to learn this over time. Like, you know, we all are different, right? And then being a father, I have to understand, take every opportunity to be a father. And then I guess I'll end by saying this, because maybe I need to make a second part to this. And if I make a second part to this, please comment. I know a lot of people don't comment, and I've noticed that about myself. I watch videos and I don't comment. Let me know what you want me to address in the second video with what I have presented thus far. The way that I want to end, which is the way that I should have started in all reality, is with everything that I'm desiring to do, right? This insecurity, I truly believe that God allowed my family to divorce, to be broken and battered and destroyed in that way. And I say he allowed, doesn't mean that he orchestrated. And the reason why it is because it created such an insecurity with me that I took marriage very seriously since the beginning of my youth. Like, the earliest memory that I have, even before the destruction of my family, was to be a father and a husband. So I think that God knew that. He planted the seed, and he knew what was going to happen, and knew that although the destruction would lead to the destruction of self and the destruction of my family and the selves of my siblings, and impact that to a magnitude that can't even be calculated even 20 years later, he knew the purpose that it would, how I would take that personally, and I will make it my mission to literally take it to the universal level of which I'm willing to take on the entire world to prove that this is the institution that God has created. But even more so, this has nothing to do with me. The whole biblical story is that God wanted a family. God wanted a family. And I wrote a whole article on this. This was additional conversation, not conversation, additional confirmation of how I knew God wanted me to do this video. I wrote an article, not an article, a caption. I guess my captions be articles. A year ago, this day, February 26th, on Instagram. And I always write it in my journal, just in case you're wondering. I'm still not on social media. I'm not coming back anytime soon. Thank you. Living my best life. So I'll post that in the community when this comes out on Wednesday. But I'm basically talking about how the desire of God is to have a family. And that's why the devil is trying to destroy the family, because it's the thing that God so desires. So if I recognize that God as a father wants children, and even more so, an additional dynamic is that Jesus Christ, the man, fully God, wants a bride and children. Like, think about that. So in order for me to satisfy and fulfill the desire of God is for me to walk this out all the way through. So in me praying, God, will you do this? Can you do this? Please do this now. I'm ready. I'm ready, Lord. I'm ready for her. Bring her. Like, ultimately what I'm saying is, Father, I want to satisfy your desire. I want to complete the ultimate delight of your heart, oh God. Do this for you. Don't do this for me. Do this for her. Don't do this for me. Do this for my children, oh God. Don't do this for me. So again, I know this is so long. Golly, forgive me. But again, part 2 is coming. I'm not sure what it will be. And obviously it would have to come out on Saturday. So let me know what you think. Is there any questions that arise? What are some specific things that you would like me to address in the next video? And then to my wifey out there, when she watches this video, there's no pressure on you. I really see myself taking the fullness of God on myself and the burden that lies within to complete and satisfy the desire of his heart. And if you would join me, which I think you will without resistance, because I know the desire of your heart would be the same. The desire of your heart is the desire of God. I know it. And when we come into agreement, we can bear this burden together. And I look forward to that so much. And I can't wait till we come together. You know, I've been thinking about how this conversation has been progressing, and like, man, if we could overcome what we're going through currently, what isn't there that we can accomplish? And I say currently because I'm just thinking in my mind, if I'm going through what I'm going through, imagine what she's going through wherever she is. So, hey, hopefully soon we going to get married. So come up with some honeymoon destinations. You got to know that I love pizza. I love pasta. And I love lasagna. So that should tell you where's my first destination that I would like to go. So hopefully you give me some ideas. But anyways, guys, and then to the men, I hope you're encouraged. Let me know if you're encouraged and if this is going to make you like on fire. Because if I could light a fire under you, bro, like imagine what we could do together, man. And then ladies, like there's men out there, y'all, that are out here on fire, that this is what they desire. So ladies, let me know if you believe that. Fellas, let me know. Like, yo, let me know that am I right about this? Don't we want this too? Like, we want this too, man. We want that wedding. We want that wedding. We could complain and be like, oh, yeah, so this and all is too much with the wedding and all this and whatever. Like, you know you want that too, bro. Let's stop fronting. But anyways, it's your boy Los here. We on the throne of positivity where nobody shall dethrone us. We out. Peace. I got to go to class.